Their shoulders down there. And as the referee kicks the game, as we have seen this powerful image, the game officially started, but the players all take a knee. 22 players down on the pitch. They all take a knee, some of them raising a right hand, a fist in the air, as Kevin Friend comes back up to his knee, and the game officially is underway. Teemu Pukki inside the centre circle, and we go again. So it is a very powerful symbol. It is something that has been widely credited of how the various parties have come together and made decisions. The club captains, I believe, hugely involved, but credit all involved with the Premier League and the clubs. That's a very powerful image being beamed right around the world. As Norwich come in the attack, they're playing from right to left, as left to right, I should say, as we look down here. Max Aarons on the right-hand side for Norwich gives it infield towards Kenny McLean. He's 15 yards outside the Southampton penalty area. Danny Ings gets a touch for Southampton, and it's taken away by Stuart Armstrong, looking for some space out on the right-hand side. There's a mistake, though, and Pukki tries to capitalise, and he's being dragged down by Armstrong. And that very much looked like rustiness as Southampton gave away possession inside their own half. Chris?
Yeah, sharp start in the opening few seconds from Norwich City. Stuart Armstrong, I think, losing his footing. Teemu Pukki getting the wrong side of him, and an opportunity for Norwich to whip the ball in with Tim Closer back and Ben Godfrey. A couple of sizable players. Southampton will have to be very, very watchful.
Norwich have got 8 games left after today to try and secure their Premier League status for next season. A win here would certainly keep them believing. It is still a tall order. Even if they'll get a few wins, they have left themselves so far adrift. But it's not mathematically impossible. Free kick, Buendia to take, wide on the left-hand side, 10 yards outside the penalty area, swings it in, chance, must, oh! Well, it fell, first of all, right in front of Ben Godfrey. He couldn't turn it in, and then Tom Tribal had an opportunity, and Norwich City really should have scored.
Well, he took a touch, Tom Tribal. Don't know whether he needed to take a touch, and it was actually Danny Ings who was really sharp, worked off that touch off his chest. And Tribal only 4 yards out. Ings with a crucial challenge to get that behind.
Maybe those chances fell to the wrong people. Tribal's not scored all season. Godfrey's not scored all season. Here comes the resultant corner, swung into the middle. Closer tries to get to it, and it comes off a shoulder of a defender, and that is going to be another corner. So 3 attacking set pieces already for Norwich, and we've only played a couple of minutes.
And Max Aarons retrieving, Buendia retrieving the ball from the stand. Of course, Southampton, 1 or 2 problems with the delivery. That wasn't so good.
No, poor corner from Buendia this time, and comfortably cleared away by the first defender. And they've got little podiums around the ground that hold spare footballs for when they do go deep into the stands and the players can't retrieve them. Again, the corner played in by Buendia, again headed away by Armstrong. Still in play, though, as Max Aarons has it midway inside the Southampton half. Right-hand side of the field as Norwich come forward. Buendia, lovely, went 1-2 with Cantwell. He's into the penalty area. 3 defenders around him. He goes down under a challenge. Kevin Friend waves his arms. He's not interested in any appeals for a penalty. Play on as Aarons tries to cross again from the right-hand side, and it's blocked down by James Ward-Prowse, and Norwich come again. Cantwell did well, helped on by Kenny McLean. And they will hold on to possession here, but Norwich back towards the centre circle, and Tim Closer, a dummy by Cantwell. It's all Norwich here in the opening few minutes at Carrow Road, 0-0 on 5 Live in the Premier League on this Friday evening, as Southampton give it away again, and they're not clearing their lines, Chris.
They can't get out, Southampton, but credit to Norwich. Really fast start. There was talk of them playing this diamond. Have changed systems to allow them to play 2 up top, Pukki and Dermich. But not quite the perfect start. Had that opportunity from Tom Tribal, who didn't take it. You think that, a side bottom of the league, they need to grab these opportunities, take the chances.
The voices of the players echoing around the stadium. The sun comes out and beams down on the pitch, which of course is in great nick, having had no football played on it for 3 months now. And so Bafemi is beaten to possession by Godfrey, and Norwich send it long into the Southampton half once again. Yann Valery, the French right back, still just 20 years of age, collects and rolls it to Alex McCarthy. McCarthy, who's never kept a clean sheet against Norwich in the past. This is the 7th time he's ever played against them. Godfrey has it and gives it to Tim Closer, and in turn back to Tim Krul, wearing sky blue, away to our left-hand side. 0-0 if you're just tuning in on 5 Live. Perhaps you're used to listening to Drive, and we've had so much news and politics in recent months, and maybe that's what you tune in to do, but this is football, this is the Premier League. Live commentary coming to you from inside the stadium at Carrow Road, all very socially distant, as the ball goes out of play for a throw-in to Norwich, away to our right-hand side. Daniel Farke still wearing the black, almost trench coat down there, and it's a warm evening. And Ralph Hasenhüttl to his left, and the tight-fitting slate grey tracksuit. Throw in for Max Aarons, gives it back to Ben Godfrey. Now closer inside the centre circle, back to Godfrey. Southampton have hardly had a kick in the game, as there's an interception made by Ryan Bertrand, but he won't hold on to it. Straight to Godfrey again. Norwich clear, long and deep, back into Southampton territory, and Bednarek takes no chances and puts it out for a throw. Chris Sutton.
No, we talked about the positive start from Norwich City. Their full-backs, Aarons and Lewis, playing really high up the pitch and putting the pressure on Southampton. They needed a fast start, I think, for their confidence.
Here's Buendia winning the ball again on the edge of the penalty area, in a shot that's not too far off target at all. Kenny McLean, left-footed shot, slightly dragged it, and it goes wide to the right-hand side of the post, but it's a decent effort, and it continues the trend in the game of it being all Norwich so far. Chris, you mentioned wonderful away record that Southampton have had this season, but they have not started in any sort of fashion here.
No, absolutely not. And that was McLean from all of 25 yards, left foot shot, not far away, not enough to trouble McCarthy. You just wonder, don't you, with over 100 days off, 102 days now, fitness, how have teams been training? Looking at Daniel Farke's team, they're looking extremely sharp at this moment in time, but they have to win this evening, have to win tonight. And just wonder whether Southampton, trying to ease the way into this game, they may think they've not got much to play for, they may think they're safe, but lose a couple of games, could find themselves dragged into a relegation scrap.
Yeah, this is the Premier League. Norwich 0, Southampton 0. We played 7 minutes. Bednarek here rolls it back to Alex McCarthy, the Southampton goalkeeper, wearing almost a sort of cherry pink outfit away to our right-hand side. Southampton haven't put a single pass together inside their opponent's half in the game so far. Let's see if they do here. Jan Valery towards his captain, but it's cut out. Norwich win it back again. Buendia up towards the half-wall line. Lovely dummy by Pukki, because he knew that Jamal Lewis was behind him. Jamal Lewis gives it back into Teemu Pukki, and here's the cross, and this is a chance, and Dermot can't get the shot away. He took too long to unleash it, and it's deflected away for a corner. Another big opportunity for bottom of the table Norwich.
And do you know what? It's a really, really poor touch from Dermot. Wonderfully worked from the edge of the own box. And over from Pukki, allowed Lewis to feed the ball back into him. Outside of the right foot, the pass to Dermot. Right-hand side of the box, chops in over the bar via a deflection. Had he got that first touch out of his feet, Connor, would have been a really good opportunity, but Norwich cannot afford to waste these half chances.
There's a good build-up there from Norwich. Here comes the latest corner, played in by Buendia, too high for Klose. Aarons wins a header on the edge of the penalty area, but Bertrand clears away. Now this is an opportunity. Danny Ings has got support on the right-hand side from Nathan Redmond. Obafemi's forward as well. Southampton into the Norwich penalty area. Redmond can't get the position to have a shot. It comes back to Ward-Prowse, and he's flicked it over to the near touchline where Armstrong has arrived. And here's the cross from the left, and it hits Jamal Lewis, and it falls into the arms of a relieved goalkeeper, Tim Krul. That's the first proper attack from Southampton in the game, and we've got a delay here because a Norwich City player is down injured. It's Max Aarons, who jumped for a header on the edge of the penalty area a moment ago. He is down, a head injury, and the referee quite rightly has stopped play.
Yeah, just wondered whether Kevin Friend should have stopped the game a little bit earlier. Devastating break that was from Southampton. Actually a 2v1, then a 3-on-2 that worked out. It's Todd Cantwell who got back to dispossess Nathan Redmond when he chopped in inside the box on his left foot. And Norwich eventually scrambling the ball to safety, actually hit Lewis on his head. The cross, and Krul gathered it. This ain't a 0-0, Connor, is it?
Well, not so far. Absolutely not so far. Norwich have had 3 chances already. Southampton just had an opportunity there, but it is still 0-0 at Carrow Road with Joseph Dermot, who is starting a Premier League game for the first time. He's been on as a substitute 14 times this season before the pause in proceedings back in March. But he's obviously impressed. He's coached Daniel Farke in recent weeks of training. He's got the starting position, but he wasn't able to take that opportunity. And I'm pleased to report that Max Aarons is back up on his feet and he's okay. And very heavily PPE'd backroom staff from Norwich have come out, and while the players don't wear masks or other protection, the medical staff certainly make up for that in the coverings that they've got on. But Max Aarons is okay, gets a word of encouragement from his coach, and he'll be back on, so it's 11 against 11 once again. 0-0 at Carrow Road, Friday night in bright sunshine, Friday night in June. It's the Premier League, and Tim Krul weighs up the options to decide where he's going to clear, and he opts to send it to the right wing towards Buendia, headed away by Ryan Bertrand, who scored against Norwich when these sides met in December. Godfrey with a header out towards Jamal Lewis on the left-hand side. Norwich midway inside their own half, and Lewis, put under pressure by Armstrong, will turn and play it back to Tim Krul. Left-footed clearance up towards the halfway line. Dermot gets a little touchdown for Tribal. He's tripped, and that's going to be a free kick. And the foul there by Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who I was surprised, Chris, to see in the starting 11. There's been a lot of talk that he's had a fallout with the coach Hasenhüttl. Apparently a move to Tottenham is in advanced stages, and there had been a suggestion he mightn't play for Southampton again, but he has started here.
Well, I think he's been their best midfielder this season. There's an argument. James Ward-Prowse has been pretty decent as well, but he's played once or twice in the right-back slot. But with Højbjerg, I think that you take him out of the side, are Southampton as good a team? And I think not. I know he looks like he wants away. That's why he's been stripped off the captaincy. But Southampton still need a result or two.
Possession in the game so far, 76% to Norwich City. It has been that one-sided. Southampton will hope that they've begun to settle in here. As Ings jumps for a header, goes over both him and Godfrey. Aarons behind, clears it high up into the air for Norwich City, comes down near the halfway line. Højbjerg, who we've been discussing, gets a touch, and then McLean tries to spin one forward, but it's just straight to Jack Stevens. And his attempted clearance, I think his eyes might have got caught in the sunshine there, and his attempted clearance went straight back to McLean. So Norwich get possession again. We've played 12 minutes at Carrow Road. Todd Cantwell plays it back to Tim Klose. Norwich back inside their own half. And we know it's a competitive game, we know it's the Premier League, but there is that feel of pre-season friendly about it, Chris Sutton, isn't there? That without the atmosphere of the crowd, the play is that bit slower, do you think?
Yeah, maybe so, but you see the press from Southampton winning the ball back, but I think inevitably that was going to be the case. But as I've said, there's so much urgency required from Norwich City. They can't think like that. They can't afford to ease themselves in. They need 3 points here.
Absolutely, the importance of the fixture is immense. No doubt about it that Norwich have had the best start. And maybe it just is an optical illusion, when you get two central defenders between themselves and rolling it back to the goalkeeper. Maybe that happens in every game, and just because of the other hustle and bustle, we don't think it feels slow, but it feels slow when you don't have that backdrop of the thousands of supporters in behind. Ball's going to play on the far side. It's going to be a throw-in to Southampton. No ball boys there, so Stevens has got to retrieve the ball for Jan Valery, and his throw-in is close to the halfway line, right-hand side of the pitch as the visitors Southampton come forward, hoping to continue. It's been a wonderful run of away form for them. Only the top four and Wolves, they're the only teams who've taken more points away from home this season in the Premier League than Southampton. If only their home form could match it, they'd comfortably be a top half of the table team. As it is, a win tonight would move Southampton up level on points with Everton, who are in 12th place at the moment. Højbjerg is closed down by Todd Cantwell, who started in the left wing, and that goes out of play for a throw-in on the far side.
Must be a head-scratcher that for Ralph Hasenhüttl, the fact that their home form has been so awful in the contrast with their away form, because there's not a noticeable change in the way that they play. I think they're on the front foot at home. And they have a go, but I think they're the only team to have more away points.
Yes, they are, yeah.
And home points this season.
Yes, there have been improvements overall for Ralph Hasenhüttl. They've had more wins this season, Southampton, than they did in all of last season, and he has been given this new contract, but finding the solution to the home form is going to be a huge task for him. The conclusion of this season, and then quickly trying to get it right for the start of the new campaign.
Yeah, I like the fact that they've got faith in the manager. Southampton, they want to build, talk of him giving youth a chance. That's the way they want to do it at Southampton. Develop some very fine players in the past, but as we all know, in the Premier League, you lose 6 games, fan pressure, the manager could be out.
We've not been missing any action there, but Southampton now back in the groove. Højbjerg just inside the Norwich half rolls it back to Jan Bednarak, the Polish international. And then Jack Stevens, who's making his 20th Premier League appearance in a row. That's the most consecutive starts he's made in the top flight in his career. There's been quite a gap between number 19 and 20, but they are all consecutive starts. And he's given the ball away. Norwich get it back, close it, turns and rolls it back to Tim Krul once again. Now there's a high press from Southampton as they try to pin Norwich in and close it. Making his first Premier League start since 2016. Not surprisingly a little bit rusty there, and he puts it out for a Southampton throw, which they take quickly, but now they're forced to retreat. Cantwell puts pressure on Valerie. Very good work from Todd Cantwell, a player who's received high praise this season. If Norwich do go down, there'll be a queue of clubs, I'm sure, interested in signing Todd Cantwell. And he has managed to force the ball out of play. It will be a Southampton throw on the far side. Still 0-0 on 5 Live.
You're absolutely right, Todd Cantwell, the Dereham Deco local boy, made good. He'll be one. There's been talks of Max Aarons, of interest from Tottenham, and that will be Norwich's issue. I think I've seen Stuart Webber talk this week about the need for the players to carry on playing. Even if they do go down, he doesn't want to sell. There's no point in them going to a Premier League club and sitting on the bench, not getting into the first team. That'll be an interesting one. Seen Norwich are a selling club in years gone by. Big money dictates. The last one out was James Maddison.
Yeah. 0-0 here at Carrow Road. McLean with a nice turn, and Bertrand knew that McLean was away from him there, so he's tripped him, and that will be a free kick to Norwich. Speaking of the old days, Chris Sutton, the last time that Norwich won here in a top-flight game was April 1994, high-scoring game, 5-4.
Last time Southampton won.
Last time Southampton won here, sorry, yes. Last time Southampton won here at Carrow Road in the top flight. Matt Letizia got a hat-trick, which is what most people remember. However, there was another story that day, wasn't there?
Well, yeah, I scored 2. But what was interesting about that is I was on a goal bonus if we won or drew. £500 a goal. So, yeah, I wasn't best pleased, Connor.
So you've scored 2, your team has scored 4, and you don't get the bonus. Excellent.
Incredible stuff.
Excellent. Brilliant.
That was the old chairman, Robert Chase. He was stingy, wasn't he?
At the days when John Deehan was coach back then. Oh, here's a good work. Ings has managed to win possession away from Godfrey now. Has he got the pace? As Godfrey tries to get back, Ings towards the edge of the penalty area, into the penalty area, gets in the shot. Godfrey didn't give it up. He matched that sprint stride for stride. He took the sting out of the shot, and it popped up into the arms of Tim Krul. Really good break from Danny Ings, but a very good recovery too defensively from Ben Godfrey.
I don't know what Godfrey's doing there on the halfway line, trying to turn Danny Ings. Ings nicked it off him. I tell you, had that been Obafemi who'd nicked it off him, he wouldn't have been getting back to make the challenge. To Godfrey's credit, he did get back.
So I was just thinking that the run from the halfway line, you could see Danny Ings was red in the face by the time he reached the penalty area. He was running out of steam. Obafemi might have been the better person for that particular opportunity to fall to, but still 0-0 here, and at least Southampton beginning to create little chances of their own now, having absorbed so much pressure early on. By the way, and with things coming back and we're all trying to figure out what's what these days, match of the day tomorrow night, 10:30, and there is live Premier League football tomorrow on BBC television as well. 7:45 Bournemouth against Crystal Palace. You can watch that one in full, but the highlights match of the day tomorrow evening on BBC One at 10:35. Here is Tribal, who I don't think has been to the barbers like most of us during the lockdown period. He gives it out to the left-hand side to Jamal Lewis. Todd Cantwell's done something with his locks, whether that was self-done in front of the mirror at home, I'm not sure, but he's tied it, or has he just tied it up? It's difficult to see from here. As Tribal lunges in on Højbjerg, and he's going to lose out possession here. Obafemi inside the centre circle. Southampton have it. James Ward-Prowse digs it out from under his feet out towards Armstrong on the right-hand side. Norwich have to fall back into a defensive formation.
That should have gone quicker, Connor, because Armstrong was in on the right-hand side. A consequence of the way Norwich play. They get the full-backs forward, but they leave big gaps. in those channel areas down the sides of the centre halves. And that's a worry because close-up certainly isn't the most mobile.
Redmond is challenged, ball goes out of play, throw in to Southampton directly down below us, and for Ryan Bertrand, who had 2 different spells on loan here at Norwich in the past. And here he is back playing against his old club today. Norwich 0, Southampton 0, huge banner covering the higher up seats of the far sides. Welcome to Norwich, it says, a fine city. As here comes Pookie down the right-hand side, and James Ward-Prowse comes back on the edge of the penalty area. What do you think, Chris?
I think Daniel Farke's up off the bench, suggesting that was a handball in the Southampton box.
It was James Ward-Prowse, I think.
But his arm was raised, whether it hit it or not.
We're very happy that he didn't have to look at it any more seriously. VAR in the background, of course, will always be analysing things like that around the penalty area. Norwich battle on for now, and they've managed to win a corner kick on the left-hand side, looking for the opening goal of the game here. Norwich bottom of the table, but they'd love to catch up a little bit of ground on second from bottom Aston Villa tonight if they could get the win here. Mentioned that I was here for the last home game when they did beat Leicester. And if any club knows about late surges to stay up, it's Leicester, that famous season under Nigel Pearson when they were in I think even a worse position than Norwich are now, and they managed to stay up with that great escape. Cantwell's cross from the left-hand side. It's going to come for Pookie here, but the bounce beats him to the byline. That goes out for a goal kick to Southampton. Still scoreless, Chris.
Yeah, it wasn't the best pass that from Lewis, who overweighted it. Pookie couldn't keep it in. I think from Southampton's point of view, Pookie got in behind Bednarak a little bit too easily there, and that right-hand channel.
Alex McCarthy prepares to take the clearance. There's the thud you can hear of that happening. Don't forget Tottenham against Manchester United coming up at 8 o'clock this evening here on 5 Live. Jose Mourinho against one of his former clubs. That's going to be tasty. Alistair Bruce Ball will be your commentator for that one. And throw in for Max Aarons, who has played in all but 2 of Norwich City's Premier League games this season. He's taking his time over it on the halfway line. And really hear all the different voices try to communicate with him, be it the bench behind, his teammates in front of him. Ward-Prowse clears it away, closer with a stooping header down, make sure that Obafemi won't get it. But here comes Stuart Armstrong over the halfway line for Southampton, veering from a central location to the left-hand side of the field. He's got Redmond outside him. Redmond tries to come in field of Buendia. Lovely quick feet from Nathan Redmond, and lays it off short to Højbjerg. And then Armstrong onto Danny Ings. Aarons stands firm, and the ball goes out right down by the corner flag. And I think, is that for a corner or for a throw-in? It's difficult to tell exactly where it went.
The drinks break, aren't they?
But we are going to take this little pause, as they are doing midway through the first half of each match. And they will come and they will have some liquids. Obviously, the congested nature of games these days, the players have to play a lot. In theory, the warmer temperatures as well. They're not used to playing at this time of the year. So it is all very sensible. They take a little break for a drink. And Chris, our chance to reflect on the opening quarter of a match that saw Norwich out of the traps like a greyhound, but Southampton steadying a little bit as that first half wore on.
Yeah, and I think that, they'll be disappointed, Norwich, that they had that opportunity. Tribal, 4 or 5 yards out, elected to take a touch off his chest. I thought, go with your head from that range. Danny Ings got back very well. Southampton actually have grown into the half as the game has gone on. They're looking a threat on the break. Ings has led the line pretty well. We haven't seen much of Obafemi, but we do know that he has that electric pace to trouble the Norwich defenders.
Some of you have been in touch on social media. Still Norwich 0, Southampton 0 here when the drinks break midway through the first half at Carrow Road. Carl, who's a Norwich fan, says surprisingly fast start to the game. Some good intensity to our play, both in and out of possession. Hope Norwich can keep this up, he says. Ryan, who's also a Norwich fan, says Pookie looks sharp. Hopefully Dermot can get a goal, he says. Greg, the Canaries have started the front foot. They need to make it count, as Southampton have shown that they won't lie down. And Richard says, I feel like Southampton need to wake up a little bit. He says Norwich have been up for this one so far. Well, Southampton do have a corner, and that's the position we're going to resume from here with James Ward-Prowse out on the left-hand side. Now, a lot of red and white shirted players have been committed forward here. Norwich have brought everyone back into the penalty area to defend it. Played in by Ward-Prowse, lovely, graceful deliver of the ball, but comfortably headed away. Redmond will pick it up midway inside the Norwich half. Southampton playing right to left as we look down. Good work from Redmond. Hurdles over one challenge, then another. Plays it into Ings on the penalty area. Back to Redmond, onto Stevens. Didn't fancy the shot. He was being closed down by Jamal Lewis. He's veered out very wide to the right-hand side. As Stevens, it will be a Southampton throw because the last touch came off Jamal Lewis.
I think Nathan Redmond's looking at Kevin Friend saying, how did I not get a free kick there? But he did stay on his feet to his credit, and I thought Kevin Friend right to let the game go on.
No, he did. I spotted that. The referee had both arms raised in the air, indicating to play on. He was acknowledging it was a foul, but advantage at that moment in time appeared to be with Southampton continuing. 0-0 on 5 Live. Here is Jack Stevens, halfway line in the sunshine at Carrow Road. As James Ward-Prowse plays it forward towards Højbjerg, but that's cut out by Klose, who'll send it left-footed long into the Southampton half, and it's returned by Jack Stevens once again, and Jamal Lewis will do a mopping up job of his own. Back to the Dutch keeper, Tim Krul, once of Newcastle, and they clear it away, Norwich, but not holding on to it as comfortably in the midfield as they were. Appeals here for a handball. Kevin Friend says no, play on as the loose ball ricochets back to Krul once again. Many substitutes warming up, and you'll be aware, I'm sure you'll have heard about the fact that Premier League clubs now name 9 players on the bench. They're allowed to bring on 5 players. One thing that maybe hasn't been mentioned quite as much is that you can't make 5 separate substitutions. You can bring 5 players on, but only on 3 occasions. So for instance, if you had brought on 3 players 1-1-1 during a game, and then one of your players picked up an injury, you wouldn't be able to bring on a 4th or 5th player because you've used those 3 occasions, those 3 slots, if you like, of making a substitution. And that's just to stop teams time wasting, that you don't make 5 different substitutions.
Don't miss your slot, Connor.
Don't miss your slot. Very, very true. Good advice in life as well as coming on as a sub. Right, this is McCarthy, who's come well outside his penalty area. So roll it to Jack Stevens. Valerie will try and come forward down the right-hand side. There's no doubt Southampton have grown in confidence after a wobbly, shaky, hesitant start. Højbjerg has it here, looks up, looks for the long ball. He's put it way too far over the top of Ryan Bertrand. And that goes out for a throw-in to Norwich. Right full-back position for them. Yeah, and still 0-0.
Looking for the quick switch from right to left. I think in fairness, Bertrand, you want to see your full-back on the touchline there. So running 10 yards off the touchline, sailed over his head, but Southampton are getting a foothold in this game now.
Header won by Bednarek, straight back out of play. Another throw into Norwich, another one for Max Ahrens down below us. Norwich 0, Southampton 0 on 5 Live. And he sends it long towards the halfway line, looking for Dermot, who was very closely marked. He had Bertrand in front of him, he had Bednarek behind him. He was the meat in the sandwich, but no free kicks as the referee. Play continues. Valerie plays it forward. There's a stretching Tribal who gets a touch. Lewis then under pressure from Valerie, and that will be a corner. Corner to Southampton. Good work from Jan Valerie. He didn't give up the ghost there. Some might have done. He was stubborn and persistent, and he's won a corner for his team.
He's a powerful player on that right-hand side. Jan Valerie and Todd Cantwell, who plays narrow off the left for Norwich. He's getting dragged out. Couldn't keep with him. Good little spell this for Southampton, and of course with James Ward-Prowse they have that player who has phenomenal delivery.
James Ward-Prowse here, just running back to one of those little I call them podiums. They're just like a cone that you'd use in training that has a ball on it for when required, and he's had to go and fetch that and now bring it over to the little quadrant by the corner flag to take this set piece in front of video screen here at an empty Carrow Road. Here comes the corner, played in wonderfully for Armstrong, saved by Krul. Very well worked set piece, shot on target, but unfortunately for Southampton, straight to the goalkeeper.
Really intelligent from Southampton. We talked about Ward-Prowse's delivery. The Southampton defenders all line up and run in, and Armstrong, who's just loitering on the edge of the box, then drifts in. The ball's played low, didn't get a good connection. No. Allowed Tim Krul to gather.
That was a let-off for Norwich, it really was. Here they come down the other end. Norwich City on the attack, however, Jamal Lewis has strayed offside.
Seen Stuart Armstrong in the past strike them really well. Nicks a goal or two, did north of the border for Celtic. I don't think he was playing in his preferred position, sort of off that right-hand side. good athlete he is, intelligent player as well. That's a big opportunity.
Hesitant defending from Norwich. Really good delivery by James Ward-Prowse. And Stuart Armstrong, if he could have that again, I'm sure he'd have hit it cleaner. 3 goals in his 6 Premier League games before everything came to a halt back in March. So he's beginning to find a bit of form. That was more than he'd done all season up to that point. And 0-0 it remains. But Norwich, who had made all the early running, if you're tuning away here on 5 Live, you missed the opening stages. Norwich were right out of the traps. However, Southampton now beginning to dominate proceedings a little bit more, and that's so much of what we've been watching. Chris has been away to our left-hand side now over these last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, and it's important. Bundia, who's playing narrow off the right for Norwich, makes sure that he tracks back with Ryan Bertrand.
Half an hour played. No goals at Carrow Road in the Premier League on 5 Live. Obafemi chested inside the penalty area. Close it, bundles into the back of him. Referee was close to that. He was happy with the collision. He says play on. Heavy touch by McLean, but he's helped out here by Dermich. And Norwich, with cool heads, play their way out of a tight corner. And here is Buendia, who's created a lot of assists this season. For a club at the bottom of the Premier League, Buendia's stats are excellent in terms of the number of chances he creates. He's a very talented creative player, once in Real Madrid's books.
Yeah, he was a steal for Norwich, I think, when he turned up. He was in the second tier of La Liga, and people were thinking, who's this guy? Hasn't scored enough goals, though, for Norwich this season. We just see the ball bounce off Pukki. That's twice he should have held the ball in and was quite loose with this hold-up play, but Norwich need the likes of Bundia to really create in these last nervy 9 games.
Just to confirm how creative he's been, this season in the Premier League, only De Bruyne, Alexander Armstrong and James Maddison. They're the only 3 players who've created more chances than Emi Buendia, and obviously they've been doing it for teams who attack a lot more frequently than Norwich do, such as their league position and the number of goals that they can end up scoring. Obafemi here tries to keep it in play, but he's hooked it out, and that will be a goal kick to Norwich away to our left-hand side. Still 0-0 on 5 Live.
Did you say Alexander Armstrong there?
I hope not, because that would not have been what I intended to say. It's been a long 3 months, Chris. It's not just the players who are rusty. Alexander Arnold. I'd written TAA on my notes. Did I say Armstrong?
I think you did, yeah.
One small fluff for man, one giant fluff for mankind. Throw in for Southampton for Ryan. I've missed you, Chris, I really have. Others would have let that go, you know. This is Redmond on the halfway line, waiting for the instruction for the referee to take the throw. And rather stern-faced Ralph Hasenhüttl standing directly behind him, arms folded across his chest. As he watches Højbjerg plays it back to Jack Stevens, 15 yards inside the Southampton half. Scoops it out to the right wing where Valerie has come forward. Jamal Lewis quite a distance away from him, having to make up that ground. Now he's good and close. Here is Ward-Prowse. That's a good ball in, and Krul commanding inside his 6-yard box. Good goalkeeping from Norwich City's keeper.
Yeah, and you know what? He's conceded a lot of goals this season. He's been one of Norwich's key performers. Tim Krul, he's been outstanding.
Here comes Stevens. This is a good search on the central defender. He's into the penalty area, and Ings has hit the crossbar. Well, hands down, that's the closest we've come to a goal in the game. What a surge from Jack Stevens, teeing up Danny Ings, and he was inches away from making it 1-0.
Yeah, straight ball in the middle of the park. Cantwell doesn't get hold of it. Stevens just drives, feeds the ball to Ings. 8 yards out, left-hand side of the box. You fancy the back of the net to bulge. Tries to do Tim Krul with the eyes, and the ball hits the crossbar and goes over. But I mentioned earlier, Connor, Norwich, they push the fullbacks so high up the pitch. They do. They're trying to attack and be positive, but they're causing themselves a problem. 2 centre-halves can't cope with Ings and Obafemi's running and movement.
0-0 at Carrow Road, but Southampton hitting the woodwork. He was left of centre, and he hit it to the near top corner, if you can imagine that. The left as he hit the goal, as he faced towards the goal. So much power, and just a few inches lower, and Southampton would be 1-0 away from home. And just worry a little bit for Norwich. They're allowing Southampton so much more possession now. Some of the early confidence displayed by Daniel Farke's side seems to have evaporated. Let's see if they can regain their composure. Tribal.
Yeah, Ings should have been different, really. Southampton should have been in front.
Dermot was offside as the ball was played to him, and he didn't compete for it, so the referee said play on. Pukki tried to close down Alex McCarthy, whose clearance hit Pukki, and it could have rebounded anywhere, and quite fortunately for Southampton, it rebounded away from any particular danger. But then that said, as it comes into McCarthy again, he flops his clearance, and that was what it shouldn't have been. That became a nervous moment for Southampton.
It's a bad 30 seconds for McCarthy. First smashing the ball against Pukki, and then what only can be described with his weaker left foot as a shank straight up in the air.
5 live for the BBC, 0-0. Sunny Carrow Road, Cruel. Better clearance of the goalkeeper down the other end. Southampton get it back inside the centre circle with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. He will turn it, roll it back once again to Alex McCarthy, who's only kept 4 Premier League clean sheets all season so far. He's not played all the games, of course. They do have Alex Gunn on the bench, Southampton, who's been involved quite a number of times in the Premier League for them this season, and Angus Gunn, a man with a huge affinity with Norwich City in the past, and his dad, and they've even named parts of the ground after Brian Gunn. But he's on the bench for this game this evening. Femi receives the throw.
Brian Gunn, Norwich City legend, and Angus Gunn, very talented keeper.
Here comes Armstrong for Southampton, keeping it in play by the byline left-hand side. Bertrand's behind, he's got time to roll it under his studs. Maybe didn't have that much time. His attempted cross was blocked down by Buendia. Tribal will look to clear it away, but one back for Southampton by Højbjerg. This is Ings trying to return a 1-2 to Bertrand. Sliding in was McLean for Norwich. Good industry on the edge of the penalty area. Home side trying to hold on to it here now in midfield. Dermot has it. Close to the touchline, right-hand side, and he's bundled out of play. Throw in to Norwich, still 0-0.
Yeah, Armstrong and Redmond have swapped sides, but they're showing real good intensity, Southampton, with their pressing. It's Norwich now. Can't get up the pitch. Everything's coming back, wave after wave at the moment. Need somebody to put the foot on the ball and show a bit of composure, Norwich.
As a reminder, this was a 6 o'clock kick-off. It'll end just before 8 p.m. We'll immediately be going to Tottenham against Manchester United for commentary of that game here on 5 Live. 0-0 for the moment here, in a game that has seen some big opportunities for Norwich down one end, and has seen Danny Ings hit the crossbar for Southampton down the other. Just 1 goal in 7 for Danny Ings when the play was brought to a halt in March. He had been on an incredible run through Christmas into the early New Year. Was it 10 goals in 11 games he was on at one stage?
Still got a chance for the Golden Boot,
yes,
doesn't he?
He does. As Armstrong was offside as he receives possession there, and that will be a free kick to Norwich.
Shouldn't have been offside there. I'm not so sure he was. I think the assistant may have got that wrong. Stuart Armstrong swapping sides with Nathan Redmond. Looked in line there to me.
You speak of the Golden Boot, only Vardy, Aubameyang, Aguero and Salah have scored more goals than Danny Ings this season in the Premier League. He's within touching distance of those. As a long ball played forward for Norwich, Dermot heads it straight up into the air. He'll challenge for it a second time and a third, but he won't hold on to possession. A chance to break here, and break with some speed as well for Højbjerg. He gets away from Klose. He gives it into Obafemi, into the penalty area, stumbles a little bit. Jamal Lewis comes back and makes the collision, and the ball goes out for a goal kick. Southampton had one to the corner. It's a goal kick.
Obafemi just getting the ball stuck under his feet. I thought Tim Klose made a poor decision. Kenny McLean's waving at Stuart Armstrong. Go with the runner. Obafemi gets the wrong side, tries to cut inside, stumbles a little bit. Norwich get away with that one. Scoring goals, such a huge problem for Norwich. Their conversion rate of chances has been the worst in the Premier League this season. They've left a few chances begging already tonight, as played forward here for Southampton by James Ward-Prowse. Ings in pursuit again. The bounce is kind to Klose, and he's able to nod it back to his goalkeeper, Krul. Tim Krul, who turned 32 during the lockdown.
Max Aarons is held up by Armstrong, but he's got help in behind from Ben Godfrey. Godfrey clears it out of play. That will be a throw-in to Southampton. And substitutes continue to warm up down below us. Oriel Romeo is amongst them for Southampton.
He's been a decent player for them in the past. Lost his position. Southampton giving the likes of Willie Smallbone an opportunity as well. That's what they want to do as a club, develop from within.
Very young squad for Ralph Hasenhüttl. They've always had a great academy at Southampton. They always bring talented youngsters through. And
I think it's got to be said though, Conor, the recruitment in recent years hasn't been as good as when they were getting the likes of Sadio Mane, Wanyama and Van Dijk. Absolute snip.
Of course, brought Gareth Bale through, didn't they, at a very young age. Here is Cantwell onto Dermot. Now, this is a bit better and promising for Norwich. Dermot on the left-hand side. Lays it back to Cantwell on the edge of the penalty area. McLean will hit it, but it's a scuffed shot. It's on target, but no power. Low and straight at the goalkeeper. And an easy save for Alex McCarthy. Good build-up, but disappointing shot for Norwich.
Yes, it was, and just didn't catch it right there. Kenny McLean, 20 yards out. He's disappointed. Cantwell feeding the ball into his path. Scuffed a left-footed shot straight at McCarthy.
Half-time approaching. 5 minutes or so to go. As Klose wins a header. But straight down for Højbjerg. Southampton have it again. Playing from right to left as we look down. Godfrey clears again. Off the field of play. And a throw into Southampton roundabout there. Left full-back position. Southampton have had 10 wins, 15 defeats in the Premier League this season. But as mentioned earlier, they have already won more Premier League games this season than they did in all of last season. A win tonight would give them a 10-point buffer above the relegation zone. I don't think they're going to get dragged into it anyway, but 10 points would certainly feel like a good insulation. Below them, Brighton on 29 points, West Ham 27. You have three clubs on 27. West Ham, Watford and Bournemouth, who are in the relegation zone.
Well, 35 points, enough to keep up the last 3 seasons. I think Southampton wanting the free kick. I thought they should have had a free kick. Stuart Armstrong bundled over down the left-hand side.
I think a stray elbow by Armstrong. I don't think there was any intent, but his elbow struck the face of Tim Klose. Klose's still down.
I thought it was a foul the other way.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think he was fouled, but he swung his arm at that time. And the way that Kevin Friend is talking to Stuart Armstrong, I think he's more concerned with the flailing arm than the foul itself. And it's going to be a throw-in for play to resume. But I'm with you, Chris. I think Southampton had a strong case for a free kick of their own there. Norwich 0, Southampton 0. As Aarons is closed, blocked down by Danny Ings. Danny Ings has come the closest to scoring a goal in this game. If you're just joining us in 5 Live, his right-footed shot cannoned off the crossbar. It was heading right for the top corner. Came back off the woodwork. That is as close as we have been to a goal this Friday night on 5 Live.
Well, this season has been devastating. Danny Ings, he will feel that he should have scored that opportunity. It's a gimme really for a player of his calibre, player of his confidence. We talk about it still being this season, but it's like a new season at the time players have had off.
Here is Jamal Lewis for Norwich. How they would love a goal just before half-time. Good injection of pace down the left wing. Ward-Prowse, though, keeping with him, making sure there's no room to cross it. And Lewis is forced to turn and retreat back to the halfway line again and give it to Klose. He's got Kenny McLean, the Scottish midfielder, alongside him. He tries to scoop it down that left wing, but it's overstruck. That was a bit ambitious, with Valerie back there anyway, and it goes out for a throw into Southampton. Right full-back position for them, still 0-0, still awaiting the opening goal.
Yes, McLean and Tribal, who are giving Norwich that insurance just in front of the back four, but just forcing it a little bit too much. They haven't strung enough passes together in the last 20 minutes, and that would be a worry for Daniel Farke.
Here come Norwich again. Cantwell, that's a good ball in front of Pukki, who's got the legs to beat Jack Stevens to it. Left crossing position as Norwich come forward. Then a good tackle by Armo. I thought it was a good tackle on Pukki. The referee says no. Free kick to Norwich. Not quite a shooting position, but only 7 or 8 yards outside the penalty area. Wide on the left-hand side, attacking set piece for the home side.
Yeah, Pukki using his body to good effect. Just draws the foul from Armstrong, and this is from a similar situation where we had the dry ball chance in the first couple of minutes. Delivery so important from Bundia.
Southampton erecting a one-man wall. Obafemi standing in the corner angle of the penalty area. 2 minutes being added on for stoppages at the end of the first half. Here at Carrow Road, blue skies now overhead. The few clouds that were there have been blown away. Buendia swings it in, closes, so close. And he just needed a firm header on it. It flashed off his hairdo, and it goes out for a goal kick. That was inches from being an opener for Norwich.
Yeah, we talk about the delivery was first class. I think he just drifted offside. Closer, missed the target anyway. Whipped in right-footed, using the pace of the ball. Probably 12 yards out, drifting the header just wide.
Yeah, that would have come back for offside, and they wouldn't have needed any of their multicolour lines in the VAR truck to tell us he was offside as the ball was played in from Buendia, but it was a good delivery. It's another opportunity that Norwich City have not taken in the game. Here comes Nathan Redmond, former Canary, up against his old club. Tries to break into the penalty area left-hand side. Weak touch by McLean. Gives it back to Redmond. Tries the outside of the right boot. Comes back to him again. Left-footed cross. Pukki to clear away for Norwich. Højbjerg will pick it up again for Southampton. And they'll remain on the attack for now. Play on. Højbjerg was fouled, but the referee gives an advantage. Armstrong comes in towards the penalty area. Takes a tumble outside the box. And that will be a free kick to Southampton. Dangerous position on the left-hand side. Stoppage time at the end of the first half, and still 0-0.
Yeah, they're finishing the first half very strongly, Southampton. I think Max Aarons should have known his players there. Stuart Armstrong always going to shift it back on his favoured right foot, drawing the foul, and this is dangerous. Ward-Prowse, ball in hands, left-hand side of the box.
This is the position 2 years ago where Tony Kroos scored the free kick for Germany at the World Cup. The crossing angle, he whipped it into the far side. James Ward-Prowse weighs up the options here. He has got just 4 teammates in the penalty area. There's a host of them on the edge. He goes for goal, and it's straight into the midriff of the goalkeeper, Tim Krul. Not his best effort from James Ward-Prowse.
Expect better there from James Ward-Prowse. Went for goal. Krul saw it all the way. I think was thankful to gather that in his midriff.
As the whistle blows for half-time at Carrow Road, behind closed doors, no goals to report yet. Norwich, who were right out of the traps at kick-off, a flurry of early chances for them, but Southampton definitely grew into the game as it wore on. Danny Ings hitting the crossbar, and much work to do for both sides in the second half, but still all to play for here at Carrow Road in this 6 o'clock kickoff. At the break, Darren, Norwich 0, Southampton 0.
Thanks, Connor. Chris, it was a good start, wasn't it, to the half for Norwich? But Southampton, as you said, just before half-time, finished it the better, and they had that glorious chance when Danny Ings hit the bar.
Yeah, I think that, Ings this season has been phenomenal. That was a big opportunity. Probably 8 yards out, keeper to beat. Tried to give the eyes to Tim Krul, but hit it against the bar and it went over. And as the half has grown on, Darren, Southampton have been the better team. Norwich did come out of the traps. They had that early opportunity where Tribal, I thought he should have got a shot off much quicker, dallied, and Ings actually got back and made a crucial clearance. That was in the early minutes of the game. But I think Norwich, they'll be disappointed with their first half display. They've gone 2 up top, which is different from what they've done a lot of times this season. That front partnership, Dermot and Pukki, hasn't really clicked, and I think Southampton will be going in at half-time thinking, how are we not in front in this one?
I was going to ask you this before the game started, but I thought I'd let you watch 45 minutes before I put it your way. So I've been trying to work out how this is going to affect a team fighting for survival in the Premier League, having no fans there. And I'm trying to wrestle in my own mind between whether having the fans behind you pushing you on is a benefit, or playing in front of empty stands where there's no pressure from the supporters could actually be a benefit. Now you've seen 45 minutes of a team facing a relegation fight. What kind of effect do you think the behind closed doors situation is going to have on a team like that?
I think it's a really good question. I think it's a very, very difficult one to answer because, there is an argument the way that Norwich have performed after the first sort of 5 or 10 minutes that the home crowd could have got on the team's back, which, does happen. Norwich are down at the bottom. They need a victory, but they need to inspire themselves. The players know what is at stake. They know it. I said before the game, they can't afford a slow start and to ease themselves in. If you're a Norwich City player, they've had plenty of time to think about it. They need to, come into these first few games and hit the ground running, and that means points. They need 3 points from this evening's game, and I think that'll be the disappointment in that. Okay, the first 10 minutes was okay, but then Southampton have been the dominant team. I think they got a foothold in the game, and they have looked the more likely team to score a goal, but Norwich have to raise the game. They have to lift themselves. They do have good players on the pitch. They actually haven't been able to get out. The longer the half has gone on, they've gone positive with 2 up top, but Southampton outworking them in the middle of the park.
Thanks, Chris. So half-time at Carrow Road in the first commentary tonight. Norwich 0, Southampton 0 in the Premier League. It's an 8:15 kick-off in London where Tottenham host Manchester United tonight. We've got Alistair Bruce Ball and Mark Schwarzer on hand to bring you that one a little bit later on. And we'll take a first look at that fixture in a few minutes' time. We'll also get you back for the second half at Carrow Road between Norwich and Southampton. But in the meantime on 5 Live, let's get the latest news from Joe Critcher.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The Education Secretary Gavin Williamson has used today's coronavirus briefing to say that all children in England will be back in their classrooms in September. And he said the government would publish more guidance for schools in the next fortnight. Earlier, Boris Johnson suggested that social distancing rules may be relaxed to make the return possible.
Let me be very clear. I want a world in which, as far as possible, provided we can make the classroom safe, and I think we can, safe. I want every child, every pupil, every student back in September, and I'm sure we can get it done.
The COVID-19 alert level has been lowered from 3 to 4 following a recommendation from the UK's 4 chief medical officers. It means that although the virus is still in general circulation, more restrictions are likely to be lifted. The number of people known to have died in the UK after testing positive for COVID-19 has risen by 173 in the past 24 hours. The total number of deaths linked to the virus has now reached 42,461. The government is hoping to relax the 2-week quarantine rule for some people travelling to the UK from next month. Talks are underway about creating travel corridors with some European countries, including Portugal. The controversial commentator Katie Hopkins has been permanently suspended from Twitter. The company says it's because she violated its hateful conduct policy. The theatre, film, radio and TV actor Sir Ian Holm has died at the age of 88. His versatility saw him play King Lear, the android Ash in Alien, and Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
BBC Sounds. Boost your mood with 6 hours of pure happiness.
A seamless selection of songs to make you smile.
From nostalgic 90s tracks
to bangers that'll have you belting out a tune in no time.
I do my hair talk, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? The all-day happy mix. This has made me feel very joyful indeed. Listen now on the BBC Sounds app.
From BBC Sport.
This is 5 Live Sport.
So 0-0 at half-time in the first commentary game on 5 Live tonight between Norwich and Southampton. Second half with Connor and Chris to come in a few minutes' time. Don't forget Spurs Man United tonight from 8:15. In other sporting news today, the Championship playoff final is to be played behind closed doors at Wembley on Tuesday, the 4th of August. The EFL has confirmed the semi-final first legs will take place on the 26th and 27th of July. Days after the season ends on the 22nd. The second legs will then be played on the 29th and 30th of the same month. And the Manchester City defender Eric Garcia is expected to be fit in 10 days' time after suffering a concussion in the win over Arsenal, says manager Pep Guardiola. The 19-year-old collided with the City keeper Ederson during Wednesday's 3-0 home victory in the Premier League. So second half to come from Carrow Road, 0-0 between Norwich and Southampton. Then at 8:15, we're going to sit back and enjoy Tottenham against Manchester United. Jose Mourinho up against one of his old clubs. Alistair Bruce Ball and Mark Schwarzer will be the commentary team inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium tonight. Good evening, fellas.
Hey, Darren.
It's going to be interesting team news, Ali, isn't it, when it comes out? We know that Harry Kane's going to play, but we're not too sure at the minute whether we're going to see Marcus Rashford from the start. Yeah,
Jose Mourinho said, hasn't he? I mean, he's got his big guns back, and I think obviously no one, wanted the coronavirus to arrive and affect everyone how it has. But in terms of the break in the season, I think this has certainly suited Tottenham more than it has Manchester United, because Tottenham were all over the place going into lockdown, having not been able to produce a win in 6 games. So Mourinho has said, Kane will start, Son will start, Sissoko will start. I think he'll be really happy about that, a chance for Tottenham to reset and have a real crack at the Champions League places. And as you say, interesting for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford on their way back. I guess we just have to wait and see, how he wants to deploy them, whether it's both from the start, whether to bring them off the bench, one of, 5 possible substitutions in the game. But I reckon, from Rashford's point of view, Darren, I don't mean this as a sort of flippant point, but you must imagine that just the way his week has gone, getting back to fitness and everything else that has gone on with the free school meals and the success he's had in society, he must be feeling $1 million. So I imagine you would want to get him out there if you can.
Yeah, we'll bring you that news on the confirmed lineups for both teams as soon as we have it. Mark, there's plenty at stake here tonight, isn't there? Not just in terms of Mourinho going up against Manchester United as the Tottenham manager, but when we look at the whole context of potential Champions League places, etc., it's a big one to kick it off for both of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely huge for both of them. Obviously, Tottenham, I think, have been one of the teams that has probably benefited from the break in football the most. Having the fact that Kane, Son, Sissoko are back is huge for them. I think for Manchester United, they would have much preferred to have continued playing. They were in a decent run of form leading up to it. The positive for them is obviously having Paul Pogba back. But does he fit straight back in the side? The only time will tell. Probably a bit too soon to say that. I think it's going to be an intriguing game.
What's your gut feeling on that? Because if you look at the Manchester United team, I think they've gone 11 games without losing before the season was shut down. And we were starting to see the kind of side that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to have. They'd won the Manchester derby. They were playing well. They were really hard to score against. And we were kind of excited by the fact that we might start to see Pogba and Bruno Fernandes in the same midfield. And then you'd add Marcus Rashford back to the mix as well. Do you think that Solskjaer is going to find a way to be able to get Pogba and Bruno in the same Manchester United team consistently?
Well, I think that'll be definitely his plan. I don't think it's probably the right time right now, just because of the sheer length of layoff that Paul Pogba has had. And I think they probably want to be a little bit more cautious in terms of when they bring him back. It's so difficult, isn't it? Because the last time they played, was what, over 100 days ago. You can almost kind of in one way throw that form out of the window a little bit. However, it's still that confidence and the momentum is still there. When you look at the way that players like Fred, Matic, McTominay have formed a relationship, partnership, and how well they've played, and Bruno Fernandes playing in that sort of that role just in behind the front two or the front three, whoever you want to play it, I think it's difficult to find a spot where to put Paul Pogba in at this current moment in time.
It's right, isn't it, Ali, what Mark says about you can almost throw the form out of the window because it's 100 days ago. That's something that Mourinho will certainly hope is the case, because we were seeing Spurs minus some key players on the slide before lockdown. But, of course, the presence of those key individuals coming back into the team is going to give them so much now for the run-in.
They were. I saw quite a lot of them, Darren, just before lockdown. I watched them lose that FA Cup tie here against Norwich on penalties. They could easily have lost that in normal time. They were having trouble at both ends of the field. I think Jose Mourinho will be reinvigorated. I mean, if you remember those last few games, it was kind of the grouchy Mourinho that we were seeing post-match, people accusing him of making excuses because of the players that he was missing. But this has been a chance to reset, a chance. I mean, it might be a little bit strong to say sort of restore his reputation, but let's not forget, Daniel Levy made a massive call. It may well have been time for Mauricio Pochettino to go. but to opt for Jose Mourinho to try and achieve what this club wants to achieve. And now, you know, they've got 9 games in front of them. Tonight is massive for them. If they win it, they're just a point behind Manchester United. They then go to Sheffield United in a couple of games' time. They've got Arsenal coming here as well. And they've got Leicester to come here as well. I think Jose Mourinho will see this as a mini tournament, almost like a mini Champions League, and something he will really enjoy getting stuck into. But it'll be huge for him and Tottenham if they can win it tonight.
Thank you, fellas. Looking forward to speaking to you a little bit later on. It's an 8:15 kick-off in London for Tottenham against Manchester United. All the build-up to that game at the conclusion of Norwich against Southampton. Let's head back to Carrow Road. Chris Sutton's alongside Conor McNamara for the second half. Just one bit of news that I wanted to run by you, Chris, before the second half starts. That's the news that's come out today that Leroy Sané has confirmed that he wants to leave Manchester City, which is something that Pep Guardiola certainly doesn't want to happen. We know that from the quotes that we've seen from him today. How significant a departure do you think that's going to be for City?
Hugely significant. I think he's a fantastic player. I think it's a massive loss for City when he does go. And I think it's a worry because he's such a young, talented player. And, you know, he's obviously not happy and wants to go somewhere else. It's as simple as that. If he was happy at City, then, you know, he would have committed his future to Pep and City. So, you know, that is a worry when you're losing a player of his calibre and talent.
So a big 45 minutes on the cards here for Norwich, Chris. You feel they've got to get a win to get off and running, haven't they, if they're going to give themselves a realistic chance of staying up this season? What do you want to see from them in the second half that you didn't see in the first?
I think greater energy. It'll be interesting because Daniel Farke has gone with the 2 up top. He hasn't done that very much this season at all. So I just wonder whether Norwich, they got overrun in the middle of the park, whether there will be a tactical switch. But Norwich need to raise the game. They know that Southampton, you know, they have the pace and the movement up top. They have to cope with that. They've gotten away with one when Danny Ings missed their opportunity, but they're not going to get many more chances. You know, this is a game that Norwich simply have to win. The players must be aware of that at half-time. They may be feeling fatigued and tired, but lose this, I think, is it for them. You know, they need 3 points. It's as simple as that, however they get them. You know, they've been talked about this season of being, you know, very good on the eye, one of the best sides, you know, possibly to go down with the football they've played, but they don't want to be seen as a soft touch, so they've got to somehow grind this one out.
One thing I have learned, Conor, is that when you hear the blast of crowd noise on the tannoy, that's the indicator that the players are on the pitch. So I suppose I should give it back to you.
Thanks very much, Darren. Yeah, the big roar of the crowd, artificial or otherwise, tells us the second half is about to get back underway. Teams allowed made 5 substitutions. However, it's the same 11s that began this game at 6 o'clock that start again now. Southampton playing from left to right in this second period. Red and white striped shirts, black shorts, white socks. Norwich in their canary yellow and green. And if you weren't with us for the first half, Norwich started well, had a few chances. Southampton settled into it much better. Danny Ings hit the crossbar. And a competitive game. It has been a proper game in those first 45 minutes. Yes, it's weird without having the crowd here. Yes, it's weird that it's so quiet. But unmistakably, Premier League football here, with Norwich bottom of the table and hoping to pick up 3 points that would continue to give them a chance of beating the drop. It's a huge order, but they will still hope. Reminder of the teams: Krul, the goalkeeper for Norwich. Back four: Aarons, Klose, Godfrey and Lewis. For Tim Klose, it's his first Premier League start, not just of the season, but since 2016. In midfield, Buendia's on the right, Cantwell on the left, Treibel and McLean in the middle. And then 2 up top, Dermich and Pukki, as Jamal Lewis has possession on the left-hand side for Norwich and turns and gives it back to Tim Klose. He turned 32 last May. His left-footed clearance up of the halfway line. There's a slip by Jack Stevens, but the reason for the slip was he was pushed by Dermich, and that will be a free kick to Southampton, who have Alex McCarthy as their goalkeeper. Back for Jan Valery, Jack Stevens, Jan Bednarek and Ryan Bertrand. In midfield has been Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond on the flanks, James Ward-Prowse and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in the middle. And then Obafemi has been supporting top scorer Danny Ings up front. Stevens plays it long for Southampton, and it bounces once and leaves the field of play, and a throw into Norwich. Chris Sutton, what do the respective teams need to do a little bit better in this second half in your view?
Well, I think Norwich need to be better in possession. Just giving it away there. Bundia turning into Bertrand. They've been sloppy, but when they get the chance, they had that early chance from Tom Tribal, they need to take it. It's good tracking back from James Ward-Prowse. Daniel Farke talked about a miracle for Norwich to stay up. The players, they have to make it happen. Now, Norwich, it used to be said, Connor, Norwich was a city where there used to be a church for every day of the week, every week of the year, sorry. So the Norwich fans, you know, will certainly be praying they can stay up, but the players have to show the intensity.
It's all about churches and cathedrals in Norwich, isn't it? It always comes back to that.
Well, it used to be said as well in Norwich that there was a pub for every day of the year as well. So if Norwich do go down, there'll be plenty of watering holes for the Norwich fans to drown their sorrows.
0-0 here on 5 Live. The first time I ever met Chris Sutton, he asked me where I was from. I said Limerick. He said, "Is that a city?" I said, "It is." He said, "Like, it doesn't have a cathedral and everything." It's all.
Does it?
Anyone from Norwich, they're absolutely obsessed with whether somewhere is a city or not. Brilliant.
Well, we've got 2 cathedrals.
2 fine cathedrals, I believe. Norwich have possession, edge of their own penalty area. Godfrey gives it back to Tim Krul. His left-footed clearance up over the halfway line. Dermot unable to control. Jack Stevens clears away.
That's where he's not done enough, Dermot. You know, the ball's going up to him. It's a long ball. I'm not saying it's easy, but both the front men for Norwich, Dermot and Pukki, haven't held the ball in well enough. They haven't linked up enough. I think before the game you play 2 up top and you think, well, was it the right call from Daniel Farke? But not even a sign really in the first half of any decent link-up play.
Joseph Dermot, free signing last summer from Borussia Mönchengladbach. He's scored 1 Premier League goal so far. And all substitute appearances before this evening. Today his first Premier League start. Here's Danny Ings. Chance for Southampton! And he scores it! Edge of the penalty area. Danny Ings gets his 16th Premier League goal of the season. And once he unleashed that right boot towards the ball, you knew it was heading for the net. He hit the crossbar in the first half. That was the warning sign for Norwich. And this is the real thing. It's Norwich 0, Southampton 1. Who else but Danny Ings?
Well, he had that opportunity in the first half, didn't he? Which he'll tell you he should have buried. This wasn't an easy opportunity, but he feeds the ball brilliantly. The left-hand side of the box, around Tim Krul. Bend on the ball into the far corner. It's a wonderful, wonderful finish. Devastating finish from Danny Ings. Norwich got to find a way back into this game. I think Southampton deserve it, Connor.
The improvements have been there all the time. It was a slow start from Southampton in the game. We mentioned it through the first half, how they had settled down, how they'd grown into it, how they'd begun making chances. You'd mentioned, Chris, how Norwich needed to protect the ball in the midfield area more, and they hadn't been doing so. And now Norwich have been punished, and this is the difficulty now. They go behind, and this season in the Premier League, they've not come back to win a game, having been 1-0 down in the game, having conceded the first goal of the match. So Daniel Farke's team have it all to do now.
He'll be disappointed the nature of the goal. It was a throw-in for Southampton down the left-hand side. Norwich outnumbering the Southampton players. I think Southampton may have got a fortunate ricochet, but not well defended at all from Norwich City. I think Armstrong poked the ball. It took a little deflection into Ings' path, but you can't keep giving him opportunities. Devastating finish, it really was. Deadly Danny Ings.
Second time he scored against Norwich this season as well. He got one at St Mary's against Norwich City in the Premier League in December. Norwich 0, Southampton 1. We were talking about, you were saying, Chris, how he's still in the race for the Golden Boot. That goal brings Danis Obafemi here into the penalty area, tries an attempt of his own, but he scuffed the shot and sends it across the face of goal and wide. That goal brings Danny Ings level with Aguero and Mo Salah. He's 1 behind Aubameyang and he's 3 behind Jamie Vardy. That's in the race for the Premier League Golden Boot.
I was going to put him in my fantasy team as well. And I chose Aguero.
Coming.
Oh. Yeah, I chose Aguero, triple captain. And he was on the bench. But he was on the bench, wasn't he? What's Pep doing?
If Guardiola had only realised.
Sorted out Pep.
Yeah. So no goal for Aguero, no triple point advantage for Chris Sutton. You can, of course, follow his fantasy football exploits on the podcast from 5 Live. Here is Danny Ings towards Redmond here on the edge of the penalty area. Southampton enjoying themselves now. Another shot at goal, another deflection, and this time out for a corner. And Norwich are under pressure now.
Yeah, I'm no body language expert, but Norwich look deflated. And actually, as an opportunity, Nathan Redmond dallied on the ball on the edge of the box. Good break from Southampton again. He had the opportunity to slide a ball into Obafemi, who was in a better position, shifted it, and the ball deflected wide for a Southampton corner,
which James Ward-Prowse has gone across to take. Norwich 0, Southampton 1. Norwich rock bottom of the Premier League and trailing at home behind closed doors. And Southampton is this wonderful record they have on their travels this season about to continue. You wouldn't have thought it after 10 minutes here tonight at Carrow Road, but they're in the ascendancy now. James Ward-Prowse challenges for the ball on the far side. He's committed a foul on Max Aarons. That is a free kick. Actually, the foul was on Buendia. A free kick over in that right full-back position. Max Aarons will take it.
From a Norwich point of view, Connor, this is when you're looking for leadership. You're looking for the players to stand up, show a bit of character, show for the ball, not to hide. I mean, it can't get any worse at bottom of the table. Show a bit of courage.
Here comes Jamal Lewis over the halfway line. Remember, Norwich did win their last home league game here against Leicester. Lewis, the player who cracked in a brilliant goal, his first ever league goal of his career, and it was absolutely fantastic. But it will all be for naught. If they lose here, they remain rock bottom, and that prospect of going straight back down again to the Championship emerges. Here is Redmond. That's a good little acceleration away from trouble over the halfway line. Danny Ings now allowed to surge at the Norwich penalty area. Gives it to Armstrong on the right-hand side. In onto his left boot. Here's the shot and it's in! Stuart Armstrong, 2 goals in quick succession for Southampton. And we had said that Norwich were in trouble. They were certainly floundering. That opening goal hit them hard. Body language not good. And they've been punished again. 2-0 to Southampton.
Well, devastating again from Southampton. Norwich sloppy in possession, and Southampton pick them off. Ings integral again, pops the ball out to Armstrong, right-hand side of the box, chops in on his left foot. Too easy, though, goes past 1 or 2 Norwich defenders, and then beats Tim Krul at his near post with a left-footed drive from 18 yards, goes into the corner of the net. It's a really good finish from Stuart Armstrong, and the Saints on the march away from home once again. Ralph Hasenhüttl celebrates.
Yeah, the celebrations for Southampton. The players been advised with their social distancing, and they've got to try and change their celebration routines, but you can see how much it meant to them there to get that second goal now. That really shores things up, and Norwich City need an almost miraculous comeback here in this second half if they're going to turn this one around.
Well, that's been the problem for Norwich in the middle of the park, I'm afraid. Social distancing. As Southampton, who are totally dominant, winning the first balls, the second balls, they're all over Norwich, showing greater energy and industry. And that's a problem for Norwich. Change of system, I think. Norwich City going with this narrow midfield, but just not doing enough in possession. They're not hurting Southampton at all.
So Stuart Armstrong picking up where he left off with the coronavirus break. He had been on a run at 3 goals in 6 Premier League games when everything came to a halt. So it's now 4 goals in 7 for the Scotland international. Here comes Jamal Lewis down the left-hand side. Cross too close to the goalkeeper. McCarthy struggled with it, bounced off his chest, and he was able to dive onto it before Pukki could attack. Norwich City 0, Southampton 2, and the pendulum in this game has swung massively into Southampton's favour. Those 2 goals in such quick succession in this second half. There was, I mean, was there even 5 minutes between the 2 goals? I don't think so.
No, but in fairness to Southampton, they finished the first half in the ascendancy. They were the better team. They looked the bigger threat. They looked slicker, quicker to everything. Norwich have been found wanting.
Here they come again, Southampton. Obafemi out to Bertrand, and he has a crack at goal from distance, and it sails away off target, but it's Southampton making all the running now. A few Norwich City substitutes warming up down below us. I think a change is about to be made by the home side. We'll keep an eye on that over the next few minutes. Difficult to tell. Actually, I think there's a limit on the number of substitutes you're allowed warm up at any one time, and there's all sorts of rotation given that there's more of them than normal. Also here at Carrow Road, unlike many Premier League grounds, there isn't that much room on the edge of the pitch for players to go and warm up. It's very tight. Here is Cantwell losing possession again midway inside his own half. Norwich City are in trouble here. Bottom of the Premier League, and having played all right, I thought, first half, no major complaints. They're doing okay, need a bit of luck, that sort of thing. But now they're struggling. They really are. Another clearance goes astray. Cruel straight to James Ward-Prowse. Danny Ings gets the head down and sets off on the right wing for Southampton. Infield to Armstrong. Back out to Danny Ings, who'll take the challenge from Jamal Lewis. He was hoping that would put it out for a corner. Lewis has managed to keep it in play, but now he's got to try and wriggle his way out of here. He plays it off Ings, and that goes out for a corner. So a corner to Southampton, who lead 2-0 here. Directly after this game, we'll be going to Tottenham against Manchester United. Alistair Bruce-Ball will be your commentator for that. And Ali, you've got the team news.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford does start for Manchester United. Paul Pogba's on the bench, and lots of Jose Mourinho's big guns return for Tottenham. Sissoko, Bergwijn, Son and Kane all start. We kick off at 8:15. I'll return you to the fine city of Norwich.
Thanks very much, Alistair. You have 4 points between Manchester United in 5th and Tottenham in 8th position before tonight. Here comes the corner in from James Ward-Prowse. It skimmed close to the head of Danny Ings, but he couldn't get a firm touch on it. And Højbjerg will keep it in play on the left wing, opposite side of the pitch from where that corner was taken. Southampton effortlessly here, holding on to possession and attack. And Norwich really are chasing shadows. They're 2-0 down at home. Tottenham against Manchester United to come with Alistair and Mark Schwarzer at 8 o'clock here on 5 Live. Jan Valery for Southampton. Very satisfied look on the face of Ralph Hasenhüttl down there, his team, who've managed to turn this game in their favour. But here comes Timo Pukki, running onto a through ball by Cantwell. He's into the penalty area. Pukki's taken a long time to release the shot, and Bednarek was able to get back and make the clearance. Well, he got 30 goals last season, Pukki, but I don't think he ever believed, Chris Sutton, that he could go on and score there.
I tell you, it was a really good run. Sloppy pass from Bednarek. Cantwell picked the ball up in his own half, and Pukki ran in behind Bednarek, and you're quite right. Pukki didn't get his shot off quickly enough. The right-hand side of the box, Bednarek got back and made the challenge.
Corners played in and easily dealt with from a Southampton point of view. Redmond is no slouch, sprints up to the halfway line and gives a good pass infield to Obafemi. He's got Armstrong outside him to the left if he needs it. Obafemi tries to goal for himself, goes back to James Ward-Prowse, and it's cleared off the line. Cleared off the goal line. Aaron's managed to get back there, and it could have been 3-0 to Southampton. That was another brilliant counter-attack for the visitors. Game is really opened up now. Cantwell pumps one over the top. Dermot will chase after it into open space on the right wing. He keeps it in play. 3 teammates up with him. Here's the cross into the middle, too close to Stevens. Jack Stevens is able to clear it away. The game is stretching now because at 2-0 down, they've got to gamble, Norwich. They've got to throw the dice here, and that's leaving gaps in the midfield especially, which Southampton are carving through at the moment like a hot knife through butter. Here comes Redmond. Tribal tries to hold on. Look at the room here for James Ward-Prowse as he steps into the penalty area, and Jamal Lewis makes the block, and it goes out for a throw-in. Chris Sutton.
Well, they should be 3 up, Southampton. James Ward-Prowse, such a wonderful right foot. Just had to pass the ball into the net. I think it was Aarons who got back on the line too clear, but they're devastating on the break, aren't they? Southampton. The one issue they've got, I think, is complacency. Don't let Norwich back into the game. 2-0 up. It's very, very comfortable. I suppose there's this argument about the Hasenhüttl style. Do they need to be this open? Do they need to take any risks when they're winning the game so comfortably? Very good watch. I mean, it's never dull watching Southampton. You don't know what's going to happen.
It's been easy on the eye this second half. Not if you're a Norwich City fan, of course, with their team conceding 2 goals, but there's been plenty of opportunities. And now we're going to have the first changes of the match. A double substitution, 2 of the 5 that are possible for Norwich. And Onel Hernandez, the Cuban winger, is going to come on. And Mario Vrancic, the Bosnian international, who hasn't started in the Premier League since January when he began the 4-0 defeat against Manchester United. He had only made, I think, 1 substitute appearance through February into March before things came to a halt for coronavirus, so he's not played for a while. But Vrancic comes on, and so too Hernandez. And the players who make way are Tribal and Cantwell. Todd Cantwell, who rarely finishes a game in the Premier League. Daniel Farke always seems to take him off. I mean, so much praise for Cantwell, but he rarely sees out the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, he's taking him off early this evening, though. Hasn't been influential. Wasn't at his best, but you can't say that about... Well, you can say that about many of the Norwich players.
Here come Southampton again. Shot by James Ward-Prowse. Good block. Max Aarons again, making his small frame as wide as possible as he threw his body to block the shot there. But again, so easy, effortless for Southampton to get into these shooting positions in the first place, and they are running away with it at the moment.
Well, they're just popping the ball around the Norwich players at ease. Norwich City players a yard off the pace. Really slick. Good block from Aarons from the shot from Ward-Prowse on the edge of the box. Just wondering whether, I suppose Daniel Farke's wondering whether these substitutions are going to make an impact. Hernandez has got pace and power.
We've played over an hour mark. There'll be another drinks break to come in this second half, probably a few minutes away from that, as James Ward-Prowse swings it in too close to the goalkeeper. Tim Krul gathers. He's been beaten twice already in this second half. Danny Ings with the first one, Stuart Armstrong with the second. Southampton, whose away record in the Premier League is up there with the best of them, and that might well be continuing tonight the way things are going. Buendia though for Norwich at the other end. Here's a chance. Pukki must score. Oh, it's blocked by the defender Bednarek. He's 10 yards out. He had time to take a touch. The goal at his mercy had Teemu Pukki. 30 goals last season. He needed to score there for Norwich.
Well, they've got to take these opportunities. Really well worked initially. There's a poor clearance from Valerie from a quick kick from Tim Krul. Allowed the ball into Hernandez, who switched the ball to the right-hand side. Dermich laid it back into Pukki's pass, who took his time.
Corner played in for Norwich. Closer heads it down, and it's put into the net.
Flag's gone
up.
The
flag is up. Vrancic, the substitute. That might have been his first touch. He thought for a moment he had scored. Closer heading it down. Nice, neat finish from a tight angle by Vrancic, but he was in an offside position. And a free kick to Southampton, and it really feels like this is not Norwich City's evening.
It'll be checked. He was offside. The initial header goes in. Southampton has an outswinging corner, and the Southampton defenders move up as the corner's taken. Vrancic a yard offside, bundled the ball home. Good defending, good organisation, all going up together from Southampton.
Southampton lead 2-0 on this Friday night on 5 Live at Carrow Road. Great to have the Premier League back, great to have the live action, albeit this eerie atmosphere behind closed doors at Carrow Road, but Southampton have certainly not been affected by the conditions, and Norwich City scrambling around, trying to get touches of the ball here, but being outclassed at the moment. Redmond challenged by Buendia, arguably Norwich's best player. Vrancic plays it forward, but too far in front of Onel Hernandez, the lightning-fast winger who's just come on, and that goes out ahead of him and goes out for a throw. By the way, get in touch. You can contact us at 5 Live Sport on social media. That's number 5 Live Sport, or you can get in touch with a text 85058. We'll read out a few of your comments during the drinks break that is about to arrive. Tomorrow, match of the day, 10:35 tomorrow evening on BBC One. You can watch Bournemouth against Crystal Palace live on BBC One tomorrow. That's one of 4 Premier League games being played tomorrow, Saturday. Bournemouth against Palace, the evening kick-off, and live Premier League football on terrestrial TV on the BBC. Here is Hernandez, the Norwich substitute. It'll drag back to himself. Godfrey took too long with the clearance. He's lost possession. James Ward-Prowse, back pass, under pressure from Vrancic. Cleared away by Alex McCarthy, high up over the halfway line. Godfrey does well under pressure from Danny Ings. Højbjerg battles for it with Buendia. Norwich are showing a bit of fight here as Hernandez wrestles for possession and is fouled. Free kick to Norwich just inside their own half. They're playing better now, Norwich, however. They had that 5-minute spell when they conceded twice, and the horse may well have bolted.
Yeah, just seeing how Norwich are shaping up now. Hernandez has gone out to the right-hand side. Vrancic has gone in centrally alongside Kenny McLean, as there's Another drinks break, Connor?
Yeah, a few people getting in touch on social media. Josh Poland says Norwich just can't cut it defensively. One of those teams which are too good for the Championship but not good enough for the Premier League. Is there a limbo, do you think, Chris Sutton? Can you be too good for the Championship and not good enough for the top flight?
Well, they were last time. I think that, it's always entertaining. As a Norwich supporter, I think over the last decade, they've been promoted 4 times and relegated twice. I mean, both these sides, Connor, were in League One 10 years ago, competing in League One. Norwich actually got out and Southampton finished, I think it was 7th under Alan Pardew. But it's one of those, Norwich didn't spend big money in the summer. They kept with what they've had, and they're not going to be too damaged if they go down and keep this squad. You would expect it to be a squad which is good enough to bounce back. Having said that, we spoke earlier about, if they lose the talent of Cantwell, they lose, a Max Aarons, maybe a Jamal Lewis. Those players will need replacing.
Lewis Coleman's been in touch. He says Norwich unbelievably open at the back, always destined for relegation in his opinion. Mark Drury says hats off to Ralph Hasenhüttl. When Leicester battered them 9-0, I really felt bad for him. We all thought they were doomed and he was a goner, but he's turned it around massively for Southampton. Fair play, says Mark, and it is a good point. He was certainly on the precipice that night. 9-0, doesn't matter who you are, that is a thumping. But new contract awarded earlier on this month to Ralph Hasenhüttl, the 52-year-old Austrian. He's going to be around Southampton for some time. We're back underway after the drinks break. Mary's been in touch, says Norwich have lost their sharpness from the start of the game. Not sure they have a way back into it. Cam says, I feel like Norwich are already down based on this form. I can't see them improving, he says.
He's got a point, hasn't he?
Yeah, Matty. Southampton, a good side with a good manager. And he makes the point as well, it's crazy to think this was the same side that lost 9-0. At the beginning of the season. Norwich and Villa both don't seem good enough to survive, says Matty.
Well, I think the disappointing thing from Norwich's point of view, I think they've been outworked. Southampton have been far, far stronger, more dynamic in the middle of the park. We talk about them in possession. Southampton, when they got a foothold, they've been very good, but out of possession, I think Ralph Hasenhüttl, he prides himself on their work rate, on their desire, on their pressing and their organisation. And they've been a class apart from Norwich City, bar the first 10 minutes.
Norwich 0, Southampton 2. And we've got Tottenham against Manchester United coming up as soon as this game is over. Here's Obafemi into the penalty area, tries another shot. He had defenders all over him. I think a layoff might have been the better option there. Bertrand tries to take it forward, but when Dia gets it back here for Norwich, he's swarmed by Southampton players, but he's fouled just outside his own penalty area. Free kick to Norwich, who continue to feel the pressure here.
Yeah, he should have popped the ball off earlier. Bundia, I thought he was lucky to get the free kick, but Southampton, once again, their desire out of possession, very, very good.
Here come Norwich. Hernandez on the right wing, pulls it back for Vrancic. It wasn't a good pass, too close to Redmond. Loose ball though, spills in midfield for McLean. Buendia tries to spin and pass, but he can only give it straight to Bednarek. And here comes Højbjerg for Southampton to counter-attack up over the halfway line. Southampton leading 2-0, playing from left to right as we look down. As a shadow now begins to creep across the playing surface. Around about a third of the pitch is bathed in sunlight. The other 2/3 now in the shade. Still blue skies overhead on a bright evening. Tottenham against Manchester United coming up at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow we've got Brighton against Arsenal. That's our 3 o'clock game here on 5 Live Sport. We've got 3 matches for you on Sunday. Newcastle against Sheffield United at 2. I'll be at Villa Park for Aston Villa against Chelsea 4:15. And a big Merseyside derby at 7 p.m. Everton against Liverpool. Liverpool can't win the title on Sunday, but should Manchester United slip up against Burnley on Monday, that could be enough if Liverpool get it done this weekend. Danny Ings here, control. That's very good control, isn't it? Oh, look at this for Danny Ings, outside of the right boot. Obafemi hadn't anticipated it, so he wasn't running on, but that's graceful from Danny Ings. The player very much enjoying himself and with a goal to his name tonight.
I think Norwich have changed formation.
Out comes McCarthy, well out of his penalty area, but gets there ahead of Hernandez.
He's tinkering with the back 3. Well, they're just all out of shape with Max Aarons out on this left-hand side as a wing-back now.
Here come Southampton. No matter what formation Norwich have, Southampton are finding it easy to attack. This is Redmond into the penalty area. Armstrong controls it. They need to get closer to him. He shoots and it's fingertipped out for a corner by Tim Krul. How they're able to make the passes in attack, how they're able to control the ball in the penalty area. Surely Norwich should be in their face more.
Well, they're a yard off. And they have been all evening, if truth be told. Armstrong, he's been such an important player for Southampton this evening, just trying to feed the ball from 16 yards past Tim Krul, trying to beat him on his near post. Krul got down sharply, but it looks like Southampton, it's 2-0, it looks like Southampton are going to be the next team to score. Talk about Norwich needing a miracle. Don't know what more than a miracle is, Connor. Maybe you've got a description.
As the corner comes in from James Ward-Prowse, and Little Buendia is able to win it on the edge of the 6-yard box. He was the first defender and he clears it away. As Southampton continue this relentless attacking as they want to come again and again, and they look for the third goal, and a challenge comes in, and referee does reach for his notebook, and Kevin Friend is going to show a yellow card to Danny Ings.
Yep, Kevin, not a friend of Danny Ings there. I think it was worthy of a yellow card. You go to ground like that, stud showing, catching Buendia. Easy one for Kevin Friend.
Here is closer in a tight corner, but he tried to play a 1-2 and it hasn't come off here with Vrancic, and then a handball is going to bring it back for a free kick anyway. Free kick to Southampton. And Norwich, who've been in the relegation zone since October. They've been bottom since Boxing Day when they lost at Aston Villa. And there had been some green shoots of encouragement into the new year, some suggestion that a great escape was possible. Looking, right now, this performance at the moment in the second half, just being swamped by Southampton, it really doesn't seem at all likely that Norwich could stay up. This is Højbjerg. Back to Jack Stevens. If there were Norwich City spectators in here, I'm sure the heads would remain high. I'm sure the songs would be defiantly sung, but I also think they would know that their team is second best. Here's Redmond into the penalty area. He just won't get there. It was a little dinked pass played to him by Bertrand, and it just flashed in front of Redmond and out for a goal kick.
Well, I have to say, I think Norwich has changed their formation. It's really not worked well. Surprises me a little bit. Aaron's playing in a left wing-back role. Played all season as a right-back, and they are ragged. Jamal Lewis wouldn't have played centre-back too many times. Just trying to throw a formation together, and Southampton are much, much slicker and better.
Here comes Southampton again. Danny Ings looking for his second goal of the game. Tries to turn on the edge of the penalty area, but runs into Buendia, and a chance for McLean to clear away here for Norwich. He puts it in front of Hernandez, who'll huff and puff and fail to get there as the ball goes out for a throw-in. The ball just rolls up a few of the concrete steps of the unoccupied seats, and it will be a throw-in to Southampton, left full-back position for them. Southampton, who will move up if it stays like this to 37 points. They would go level with Everton in 12th. Everton have got a better goal difference, but I think that'll feel like a sensible cushion away from being dragged back into any sort of relegation bother below them.
Yeah, well, you think a mid-table finish would be a decent season, or represent a decent season for Southampton. With Klopp at the top, the Klopp of the Alps would be halfway up the mountain.
I'm just thinking, actually, as Obafemi here comes on the attack for Southampton. Where's the defence? He's into the penalty area, and Jamal Lewis comes across with the last gasp lunge and puts it out for a corner. Again, too easy as Southampton attack it on the Norwich City goal.
Well, I have to say the Norwich back three look like they don't know what they're doing, and Southampton should have taken advantage of that. Obafemi driving the left-hand side of the box. Danny Ings screaming at him, square it. Just a lack of awareness from Obafemi allowed Lewis to get back and make the challenge. He pokes it behind for a corner, but Southampton should be out of sight in this game, Connor.
If there's a fault in his game, and he's a young man learning his way, Obafemi, he is instinctively a striker. He doesn't look for the passes as he comes forward. noticed that about him. The head is down. He might have had other options there. Bertrand tries a left-footed volley well outside the penalty area. The corner ricocheted to him, but he got underneath it. And that skews up high into the empty seats behind the goal that Tim Krul defends as the ball is thrown back to him.
Going back to Obafemi, he's certainly a threat, his pace and his power, and he's a handful in that respect, and they're winning the game comfortably at this moment in time, but in a close game, that's where he has to learn his trade a little bit better.
And do you know the transformation that I feel he's got to make? I'm interested what you think, Chris, is what Adama Traore has done over the past 12 months or so to become what he is now, being a player who was so fast that almost he was hitting the ball too far ahead of him. And Obafemi's built like Adama Traore. He needs to get that. Maybe don't run quite as fast. Maybe just cruise. That'll still be faster than everyone else.
Yeah, he's a young man, and it's about development, switching on, decision-making, shifting the ball, and understanding how to play.
Right, here's an opportunity for Norwich. Dermot on the left-hand side into Buendia. Southampton quickly getting players back behind the ball. Even Danny Ings now coming back to lend some support. Vrancic to Buendia. He's rode a challenge well. Dermot, though, beaten to it by Jan Valery. And the ball goes out of play for a Norwich throw. Right full-back position that Southampton are defending. So it's the left wing for Norwich. Taken by Max Aarons. Stumbles a little bit. And Jamal Lewis now. Aarons has remained up in this position on the left wing for now. There's all sorts of changes of system being deployed by Daniel Farke, and I don't think it's improved things at all. Here's another opportunity. Ings rolls it in front of Obafemi. One defender between him and the penalty area. It's McLean. This time he does pass it. Good ball to Redmond. Redmond into a shooting position. That's into the bottom corner. Too easy for Southampton. They make it 3-0. And Norwich City are crumbling to pieces here in front of our eyes. They are all over the place. Max Aarons, normally a right back, he's playing on the left-hand side. Godfrey, central defender, seems to be playing right back. They're all over the place, Norwich, and they are 3-0 down.
Well, Norwich look like a relegated team. Devastating break again. All too easy for Southampton. Obafemi feeds the ball to Redmond, who squares up Godfrey, left-hand side of the box, and that's too easy. Little shift onto his left foot. Nathan Redmond had 3 good seasons at Norwich City, developed into a fine player under Chris Hughton, went for big money, £10 million to Southampton, showed his class there. I think he's had an inconsistent season, showing really good feet and trickery.
Very much credit to Obafemi, who was just saying he needs to pass a bit more. That's exactly what he did there to set up Redmond. He'll claim the assist. 3-0. Ings, Armstrong, Redmond. No way back for Norwich now with 10 minutes to play. They have brought on a striker, mind you. Adam Ida, the young Irish forward who got a hat-trick in the FA Cup against Preston in January. That's when he came to national attention. Haven't seen too much of him in the Premier League. And he's going to be given the last 10 minutes here, but it's difficult for the young 19-year-old in these circumstances with his teammates being so thoroughly outplayed. Southampton also preparing double change of their own, which will happen any moment now.
And now Norwich gone back to a back four. That's a baffling decision to play Aarons as a left wing back. Yeah. Bring him over. When you think that Lewis is a natural left footer and he's gone into centre back, that's not a natural balance. I don't know what pin the tail on the donkey is in German, but I think Daniel Farke got that one badly wrong.
Yeah, they just looked all over the place in the build-up to that third goal. Nobody seemed to be where they were supposed to. Square pegs in round holes. Here is Ida, though, chance to shoot, and he's put it wide. Just inside the penalty area. First opportunity for the teenager since coming on. Adam Ida unable to hit the target. Just inside the penalty area. Right, here comes the substitutions for Southampton. Double change again. Che Adams, who's still looking for his first goal since joining Southampton, he's going to come on, and William Smallbone as well, who you were mentioning before kick-off, another Republic of Ireland youth international. Will Smallbone, 20 years of age, made his Premier League debut in February against Aston Villa. He also played against West Ham that month, and he's going to come on here for his third appearance in the Premier League. Obafemi has made way, having set up that third goal for his teammate Redmond, and there's elbow touches and fist bumps and all other socially distanced congratulations for Obafemi as he makes his way into the seats behind the dugout. Work done for him. Armstrong, the other player, who has been taken off for Southampton. So Obafemi and Armstrong go off, and Smallbone and Che Adams comes on. Adams, who did score against Norwich in his Birmingham days not so long ago, but still waiting for that first Premier League goal for Southampton.
Yeah, he could do with a goal. Went for decent money. I think that Southampton fans would have had
15 million.
Yeah, well, high hopes, I think. He travelled down to the South Coast. Hasn't happened. He's been hesitant.
This is his 28th appearance in all competitions for Southampton for Che Adams. And this goal drought has been the longest of his senior career so far. He's good work, though, by Hernandez, back out on the left wing. That's where he should be, Hernandez. And he takes the ball with him here, veering infield, supported from behind, and the referee's whistle is blown, and that will be a free kick to Norwich, midway inside the Southampton half. We've only got minutes to go. They're 3-0 down, but they are battling on here at Carrow Road.
Yeah, poleaxed by the Pole Bednarek there, Hernandez.
Just to confirm as well that Ondrej Duda, the Slovak playmaker, has come on for Norwich. As Vrancic takes the free kick into the penalty area, close attacking into the far post. Danny Ings back helping him out, and Ings heads it out for a corner to Norwich. Don't go there, Chris. Corner to Norwich on the right hand side.
Ings dings it out for a corner.
Ings dinks it out. I'll put my teeth back in for the next game. Right, here comes the corner. Duda to take it. Duda dings Ings as Hernandez tries to crack in a shot. Che Adams throws his body in front of it and manages to block it away for Southampton. This is Jamal Lewis. Norwich 0, Southampton 3. 5 minutes or so of normal time to play at Carrow Road.
Jamal Lewis there saying to Hernandez, you've got to make the run there, as he puts the ball out for a goal kick for Southampton. But that sums Norwich up all evening, Connor. Not on the same wavelength.
The white flag has been waved now. They've taken off Buendia, they've taken off Pukki, they've taken off Cantwell. They have to try and keep those guys fit for what is the start tonight of a run of 3 home games in a row. After Southampton tonight, Everton come here in the Premier League. That's on Wednesday. And then Manchester United visit here to Carrow Road next Saturday. That's in the FA Cup. Buendia and Cantwell, I'm sure, will be wanting to feature in all of those games, but by taking those guys off, it, Pukki as well, it just shows that this goose is cooked tonight. This is Jamal Lewis, left-hand side for Norwich, under pressure from Will Smallbone. Scored in the FA Cup in January against Huddersfield. Smallbone.
It may not just be the defeat for Norwich this evening, it's the manner of the defeat as well.
Totally
they've
agree.
been absolutely blown away. Southampton have been far, far superior, and you wonder the knock-on effect with games coming thick and fast.
Højbjerg has given it away here to McLean.
I think if you ask Daniel Farke, he'll say after the game, I can't remember many performances this poor from Norwich where they're that far off the pace. We talked about, different sides will come back with different fitness levels. Southampton look far sharper, fitter, stronger, more intense. That shouldn't be the case.
I agree, and I've seen quite a lot of Norwich this season. This has been as poor a performance as they have delivered, and the 3-month break has not been kind to them, it would seem, as Godfrey puts the ball out of play for a Southampton throw-in. Right-hand side for them. It is set to become 3 defeats out of their last 4 home Premier League games. That absolutely is relegation form. And they look set to remain rooted to the bottom of the table. 21 points from 29 games. And any chance of survival looks increasingly distant now. Here's Che Adams just outside the penalty area for Southampton. Right-hand side of the field as they come forward. Valerie with a few little step. Oh, he's done really well, Jan Valerie. Gives it back into Che Adams. Lays it back to Smallbone. Left-footed shot. Sits up here for Bertrand, and he shoots, but off target. And Southampton are just queuing up now as they look to add to their already impressive lead.
They're a side flourishing, full of confidence. Really good feet from Valerie down the right-hand side, twisting and turning. Another opportunity for Southampton. I mean, this could be a cricket score, couldn't it?
Well, you look back, Ings hit the crossbar, didn't he, in the first half? I mean, it would not have flattered Southampton to be 5, maybe even 6.
Ward-Prowse off the line.
Yes, yeah. Southampton will be absolutely buoyed by this. And you look at their fixtures to come. Arsenal at St Mary's on Thursday. The way Arsenal played in their opener against Manchester City, I think Southampton will fancy that one now, Chris. Mind you, it is at home where they have struggled, but maybe without the fans, that might be a new dynamic now for Ralph Hasenhüttl's players.
But they are a baffling team, aren't they? You know, bottom of the league on home form, Southampton, and yet before today's game, I knew they were 7th in the away form, which said everything, and they have been so dominant. How do you put your finger on that as a manager of the club?
It must drive them absolutely berserk. A few changes here. Nathan Tella is going to come on. He's number 52, and Sofiane Boufal as well. So that will bring it up to the 4 substitutes that will have been made by Ralph Hasenhüttl. Danny Ings is one of those who's making way. He's got his goal tonight. Danny Ings up to 16 in the Premier League for the season. 19 goals in all competitions. He is on target to surpass the 20-goal mark for the campaign. And who is the other one who's come off? It's that Boufal hasn't come on yet. Boufal's been told to go back and sit down. So just Tella on for Danny Ings for now, as the referee blows the whistle for this corner for Southampton, which will be taken by James Ward-Prowse on the right-hand side. Close might have got a better touch on that. Small bone shoots, but boy, he's got underneath that, and high altitude as it sails over the crossbar and way off target. So another change to come on, and this is Josh Martin. Josh Martin coming on for Norwich. I'll tell you about him in just a moment, as the loudspeakers echo around the empty Carrow Road announcing his arrival. And who was it who went off to allow him come on? There's so much activity down on the technical area, it's actually difficult to follow at the moment. There's a 5th substitute being paired. Kyle Walker-Peters is going to come off. It's Dermot who made way for Norwich. Kyle Walker-Peters on loan from Tottenham. He's about to be introduced for Southampton. And we always say this in friendlies and stuff like that. When you start to make international friendlies especially, multiple substitutions, it so drags the energy out of a game. It's become so stagnant now.
Yeah, I've lost count, Connor. If I'm honest, I don't know what's going on down there.
It's
Southampton have got 14 players on the pitch. That's what it's looked like, hasn't it? In this second half, they've been that good.
It does, right. I don't know. Well, we can tell you.
Well, thank God it's near the end of the game. That's all I can say.
The referee wants to get on with it as they try to get everyone back into position here. But some of these youngsters who've impressed during the mini pre-season that would have been held in the lead up to these games, getting their chance. Nathan Tella, Josh Martin. Guys of this, in the days of just 3 subs, they probably wouldn't get to see any action, so they'll be very happy about it. 4 minutes are being added on for stoppages at the end of the game. 3-0 to Southampton. They are going to move well clear of any relegation bother below. Kyle Walker-Peters takes the throw-in. He's come on it right back. Stevens back to the goalkeeper, McCarthy. And the clearance up to the halfway line, flicked on by Smallbone. And Tella tries to get onto it. Whistle is blown for a foul, and that's a free kick to Norwich.
Yeah, he's had a tough night, doesn't he, Tim? Closer thrown in as such because of the injuries to Hanley. He was probably Norwich City's best defender before the enforced break. And I feel for Daniel Farker in that respect. Only 2 fit central defenders, but the truth is Norwich haven't got close enough to Southampton all evening.
So stoppage time at Carrow Road at the end of a game that has produced 3 goals, all of them in the favour of the home side. And we mentioned Josh Martin, who's come on. So he's a new signing. He came in from Arsenal. He had a trial with Norwich, and having played, I think, for the under-18 team at Arsenal, he's been brought in to Carrow Road, and here he is playing in the Premier League, just like that. Here comes Max Aarons, right-hand side for Norwich. Poor ball in field, straight to Stevens. Stevens comfortably able to clear it away for Southampton. There's a flick on as Boufal tries to chase. Aarons has got pace. Oh, he's in trouble here. And he knew he was in trouble, Max Aarons, and he commits the foul. And that is going to be a yellow card for Max Aarons, and Southampton might have been in for another goal if he didn't commit that foul.
Well, I think he's fortunate that Tim Closer was round. Would have been in touch there. But that sums Norwich up all night, doesn't it? Poor decision making. I think they've been desperately poor in possession all over the pitch. This is James Ward-Prowse arranged this, just about.
Don't forget Tottenham against Manchester United coming up very shortly. Indeed, 10 minutes to kick off at Tottenham Stadium. We'll be with Alistair Bruce Ball and Mark Schwarzer for that very shortly. We are deep in stoppages here. Free kick to Southampton. Can they put the cherry on top of what has been a very pleasing performance for them? Here comes Ward-Prowse. Short run up. Right-footed shot. It was on target, but saved by Krul. Stepped across to his right-hand side and gather the ball for Norwich City, who must just be wishing this final whistle to blow now. 3-0 down at home. Rock bottom of the Premier League. And they don't want this to get any worse now. They'll go lick their wounds and try to prepare for their next fixture in midweek. Here is Højbjerg for Southampton, and that's definitely a foul on James Ward-Prowse by Vrancic, and a free kick to Southampton as this game peters towards its finish. So comfortable for Southampton now. So pleased they'll be, and I'm sure we'll have many Southampton fans of the South Coast tuning in, listening to this commentary, unable to come to the game themselves, and they'll be very pleased when they get to watch the highlights back of it, because Southampton, after, let's face it, rusty start, but they dug in, they kept the belief, and by the time Danny Ings had opened the scoring, they were already in full control of a game, a hold in which they've not relinquished at all.
It just makes the rest of the season for Southampton really enjoyable. The pressure's off. Come here, get the 3 points, play well. It's a perfect job done.
There is a shot, not much power on it, from Nathan Tella. Saved by Krul. Apologies, by the way, I said there 8 o'clock kick-off the Tottenham game. It's 8:15, which gives us a little bit of a bigger build-up time ahead of that one. We'll be back in the studio with Darren Fletcher very shortly. 8:15 start Tottenham against Manchester United. That is coming up next on 5 Live, because there is the full-time whistle at Carrow Road, and one or two smatterings of applause echo around the empty arena. Daniel Farke comes over and does a little elbow bump with the backroom staff in Southampton, and Ralph Hasenhüttl down there as well. But the goals from Ings, from Armstrong, from Redmond. Southampton go 10 points clear of the relegation zone. Norwich have still only had 5 league wins all season. They remain rooted to the bottom. It finishes Norwich 0, Southampton 3.
So a victory for Southampton by 3-0. That's a 7th away win for the Saints this season. They've actually taken 23 of their 37 points on their travels. They're now level with Everton, who are 12th in the Premier League table. The prospect now for Norwich is they could be 9 points adrift by the end of the weekend, with 8 fixtures left to play. We'll talk to Chris Sutton about what this may potentially mean for Norwich imminently, but Conor, before that, just take us briefly through what you've seen tonight.
Well, what we saw tonight is that Norwich are not going to be good enough to stay in the Premier League, frankly. I'd been at many of their games this season, their last home game here when they beat Leicester, and I thought maybe, just maybe, with the vociferous atmosphere that the crowd at Carrow Road can drum up, maybe they could put a run together here. But on what we've seen tonight, I don't think so. They had early opportunities, no composure in front of goal, unable to take those chances, and then the belief just evaporated away from the players, and you could see Southampton slowly and surely wrestling this game in their favour. And second half, I don't think embarrassing is too strong a description, Chris Sutton. This was terrible from Norwich City.
It's absolutely desperate for Daniel Farke now, isn't it? And Norwich City, I think they're down. I don't think there's any way back. I think the nature of the defeat as well. Southampton were in a different class, really. They were first to every ball. They were stronger, quicker, sharper. They showed greater energy. And where do Norwich go from here? They've got to somehow pick themselves up for the game against Everton next Wednesday. But it certainly doesn't look good for Norwich City. Very, very difficult after this result to even contemplate staying in the Premier League.
Do you stand by then, Chris, what you said at half-time? You said that if they don't win tonight, that's it. Do you think that tonight was the last chance saloon for them and now it's inevitable they're going to go?
Yeah, going into this game, I thought that, they had to win this game and, hopefully build up a head of steam and some momentum. But the nature in the defeat, wouldn't have flattered Southampton to win this 6 or 7. Norwich were fortunate this was a 3-0 defeat. And, they'll be absolutely shattered after the game, no confidence. But I thought there were some baffling decisions from Daniel Farke to switch to a back three. Aarons to come over to, on the left-hand side. I've never seen him play left wing back. And when you had Jamal Lewis then fitting in as the third centre-half, you think he's a natural left-footer. I thought it was pin the tail on the donkey stuff. I really did. I can understand the gamble in some respects, but Norwich were all over the place. They lost the battle in the middle of the park, and credit to James Ward-Prowse and Højbjerg for their displays and their dominance. But I think Norwich will be feeling very, very flat after this defeat.
So Danny Ings, Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond with the goals for Southampton tonight. Very straightforward victory for them. At the significance of the Danny Ings goal, it means that he's the first Southampton player since James Beattie 17 years ago to score more than 15 goals in a Premier League season. That's been the problem for Southampton for so long, scoring goals. Can they find a consistent goal scorer? Well, Danny Ings has certainly stepped up and been that for them in the Premier League this season. Now, one thing I've got to challenge you on, Chris, and I've been struggling with this, I must admit, all season. There is this notion somewhere that Norwich City might turn out to be one of the best teams to be relegated from the Premier League. But I just can't see it. They don't score goals. They concede too many goals. They don't win matches. They lose too many matches. Where does this belief come from that Norwich City are one of the better teams who will be relegated from the Premier League? Where does it come from? I don't see it.
Lovely city, 2 cathedrals, a beautiful castle, lovely people, the stadium's absolutely magnificent. They've played, what has been remarkable, Fletch, about them this season is they have been beaten a lot, but this was what was disappointing about tonight for me is they've shown remarkable courage and they've played some fantastic football. Go back to the first game of the season where I thought they were naive against Liverpool, but a lot of people were impressed with the way they came and they tried to play and they had their style of play and very, very courageous. And at times, it goes against actually belief that these players can come out and have the confidence to perform and pass the ball, and they have been pretty on the eye. But you don't want this tag, and I think it's a tag that in football people will give them that Norwich City have got a softness about them. They aren't ruthless enough in both boxes, but they've got a lovely kit. They have got some good players. All joking aside, we talk about the likes of Cantwell, who was disappointing tonight, the likes of Aarons and Lewis. Norwich City are a development club, and these players have shone at times this season. Godfrey's been good, but we saw him, tonight make an error or two. Lacks a little bit of consistency. And if Norwich do go down, then maybe these players need another year in the Championship to carry on their development.
I know you like to deal in facts. 25 goals scored is the lowest in the Premier League. 52 goals conceded is the second highest in the Premier League. 5 wins, 18 defeats. We've got to give the last word, I think, though, Chris, before we turn our attention to the Manchester United-Tottenham match, to the turnaround that we've seen for Southampton since the 9-0 against Leicester. They've been very good away from home all season. That's been their strength. They've rewarded their manager with a brand new contract, and they cruised through that game tonight.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. We talk about them when they're in possession, but out of possession, their work rate, their organisation, their desire. I think they're they were a really good team tonight. I think this season, their head scratcher, I said before the show, what's going on at home? They're just a team bereft of confidence. And how can you put your finger on that? Why are they so good away from home? They don't change style. They play the same way. They've got some very talented players. And we talk about Danny Ings' goals, but the contribution which he makes in terms of leading the line, holding the ball in, being that focal point, so important. But they've got some good players. Ward-Prowse is an excellent player. Armstrong, I think, has grown in the Southampton shirt. Højbjerg, it looks like they may lose him to Spurs. He's had a very good season. They have a vulnerability at the back, and I think that's their issue. And, they didn't look watertight tonight at times. But overall, I think you have to say it's been a good season for Southampton. Their Premier League safety is pretty much guaranteed. They came here, they were ruthless, they got the job done, and it's a lovely end to the season now, isn't it? But I suppose the type of manager which Ralph Hasenhüttl is, that he'll be demanding more and more from these players.
Well, thank you both for your work tonight. Safe home, the pair of you.
Cheers, Darren.
That's Chris Sutton alongside Conor McNamara at Carrow Road, where it finished Norwich 0, Southampton 3. Another defeat for rock bottom Norwich. Danny Ings, Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond with the goal. So we have another one on the agenda, the kick-off in about 15 minutes' time in North London, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Spurs against Manchester United. Mark Schwarzer is alongside Alistair Bruce Ball for that one. We're going to be joined by Jonathan Greening as well to build up to that game, and that's on the way on 5.